There is a key question that leadership at many companies is trying to answer. Should they fine tune a custom LLM or should they go with RAG? This isn't just a technical debate, it's a classic build versus buy dilemma that will dictate your margins, your data security, and your speed to market for the next 3 years. We'll go over this in 3 parts. First, we break down the intuition behind both approaches. Second, we'll go over scenarios where fine-tuning might be better than RAG, which will include security, budget, and expertise. And third, we'll talk about how to think about these in the context of agentic AI that is proving to be successful in many production environments. To choose the right path, we have to look at where the intelligence actually lives. Fine-tuning is an optimization of the model's internal weights. We are essentially baking proprietary domain knowledge or specific stylistic behaviors directly into the model's parameters. In an enterprise context, this is about internalized capability. It's the move you make when the baseline model lacks the specific terminology or the industry standard formatting, or some other deep, nuanced logic that is unique to your problem. There is a little bit more nuance here that we should talk about before moving on to intuition behind RAG. For fine tuning, it's important to understand what you would need in order to fine tune a model. If you're going with open source models on your own infrastructure and you have the internal specialized talent like the data scientists and ML engineers, fine tuning would be the ultimate build move. This gives you full ownership of the model weights and zero per token leakage to third-party providers. You're investing in your own private intellectual property. Conversely, if you're operating with closed ecosystems like OpenAI or Gemini, fine-tuning is a managed service. You submit your proprietary data to their training pipelines to create a custom model. You gain the performance, but you remain in their ecosystem, paying a premium for the hosting and serving of that specialized instance. For many enterprise leaders, this is the buy path, trading a higher operational experience for a significantly faster time to market. RAG, Retrieval-Augmented Generation, on the other hand, decouples the reasoning engine from the data. You're using a high-performance large language model as a processor to act upon an external dynamic knowledge base. This is about contextual access. Instead of retraining the model every time your data changes, you're simply providing it with the most relevant briefing documents in real time. You build a simple infrastructure to retrieve the most relevant documents for any question that has been asked and add that as a part of the prompt. This gives you the answer as if the model knew about your custom data. If this does not make sense, please watch our video on RAG that goes into the details of how RAG works. For leadership making a decision on what to use, the distinction is simple. Fine-tuning is about how the model thinks, while RAG is about what the model knows at any given millisecond. Does this mean you could have a fine-tuned model doing RAG? Yes, absolutely. They are not exclusive. This brings us to part 2 of the video, which is about the trade-offs of what to use when. Most teams default to RAG because it's faster to deploy. But as you scale towards a build strategy, fine-tuning becomes a strategic necessity in 3 specific areas. RAG often requires orchestrating data across multiple vector databases and middleware. If you're operating in a highly regulated environment like fintech or defense, every extra hop in your architecture is a potential vulnerability. A fine-tuned model housed in a private VPC can internalize sensitive logic, reducing the surface area for data leakage. While RAG saves you money on initial training, the RAG tax is real. You're paying in latency and token costs because every query carries a massive payload of retrieved context. If you have a high volume application where milliseconds matter, a small fine tuned student model can often outperform a massive general purpose model, drastically lowering your inference costs over millions of calls. Fine tuning is a play for companies with high technical maturity. It requires a robust data pipeline and MLOps talent. If your competitive advantage is a proprietary dataset that no one else has, buying a RAG API is just renting someone else's intelligence. Fine tuning allows you to turn that data into a defensible proprietary asset. Fine tuning has its own issues. It does sound more premium and secure, but in an enterprise, fine tuning has a knowledge half-life problem. If you fine tune a model on your 2025 product catalog and you release a new version in March 2026, your model has outdated information. To fix it, you have to retrain. That's more GPUs, more data prep, and more money. For most businesses, fine tuning for facts is like trying to update a website by reprinting the entire encyclopedia. It doesn't scale. So, how do you decide? What you need to look at is your update velocity versus your structural complexity. Choose RAG if your data changes daily, weekly, or even monthly. RAG is your dynamic library. It's the only way to ensure your AI isn't hallucinating on last year's spreadsheets. Use this for customer support, real-time analytics, and internal knowledge bases. Choose fine-tuning if you need to change the model's behavior, not its facts. If you need it to speak a proprietary language, follow a complex legal format, or operate at ultra low latency on your own hardware. Fine-tuning would be the right way to go. In a true production environment, though, it's rarely 100% of one or the other. You fine-tune for the how, the reasoning, and the format, and you use RAG for the what, which is the fresh, grounded data. This brings us to the third part of the video, which is about how all of this fits into agentic workflows. Finally, we have to look at where production AI is heading, which is agentic workflows. The real shift in enterprise AI isn't about choosing between RAG and fine-tuning. It's about moving towards agentic architectures. Think of an agent as an autonomous layer that sits above the model. It doesn't just answer questions, it executes workflows. For these agents, RAG is simply a tool in their belt, no different from a web search, a SQL database, or an internal API. In a production environment, the agent is the decision engine. When it encounters a task, it determines which tool to call. Does it need the latest stock levels? It may call the ERP API. If it needs to verify a specific company policy, it may call a RAG tool. Does it need to browse the web? Then it may call the search tool. The model itself, whether it's an out-of-the-box LLM or the one you have fine-tuned for specialized reasoning, acts as the cognitive core. If you have fine-tuned your model, you have essentially trained your agent to be a better tool user, improving its ability to know when and how to call that RAG pipeline or that database without making mistakes. This is the bridge to a resilient enterprise-grade ecosystem. You aren't just building a search engine, you're building an autonomous system where RAG is a utility, and the agent is the intelligence that leverages it to drive real business value. So where does this leave you? If you're at the start of your AI journey, don't over-engineer. Start with RAG. It is the fastest way to prove return on investment and get your data into the hands of your users. without the massive overhead of training a pipeline. But as your use cases mature and as you move from simple chatbots to autonomous agents that need to handle sensitive logic at scale, you can pivot. The goal isn't to pick a winner between RAG and fine tuning. The goal is to build an architecture where your proprietary logic is internalized and your dynamic data is accessible. This is how you move past the AI hype and build a system that actually moves the needle for your business. Thanks for joining us on Scovia Labs. Hit that subscribe button for more eye opening insights, and as always, stay curious.